I've got the spores, the sickness. There's the twins in my brain.
The last few weeks of the road cycling season are upon us. After a long and exhausting year, the riders and we, Domestique, are fighting to stay fit till the last Italian one-day races. And of course, the Tour of Guangxi. Whoever thought there would be a break between the end of the Grand Tour season and the final Italian Classics was wrong. Sunday, the 24th of September. I was watching our Belgian football Classico on the television. My phone, ping, ping, ping. Jumbo-Visma working on a merger with Soudal-Quickstep. Wait, what? Impossible, no? Since then, thousands of articles have been written, hundreds of different scenarios have been leaked, and several podcasts have talked about this topic. Domestique remained silent till now. I'm here once again, joined by Bram, certainly one of our most loyal domestiques at this point. Hi Bram, how are you?
Good evening. I'm doing well. It's a very challenging topic to talk about. A lot of complexities on it, so I'm ready.
How did you fill in your time between the Vuelta and now?
I've been sick, so that's been great. And also just catching up on some work because during the Vuelta, there was a little bit of slacking off, but now I'm back up to speed and we're kind of ready to dive into the off season, but there's still some other things to do first.
No further introduction needed. Let's dive right into it, shall we? An important note before we start discussing. Everything we say or think is based on articles seen in the media. So don't kill us, don't be mad at us. It's all from articles and other stuff. So, the general thought of the idea, the merger. Did you believe it when you saw the first messages come out?
I mean, considering the source that Wielerflits and Raymond Kerkhoffs, that's a very believable source. He usually knows what he's talking about. I tend to believe everything he says. The article itself, it doesn't specify any of his sources, so it's completely unclear where he gets his information from. So that kind of makes it like, is it real? Is it not? I find it, at that time, I found it kind of challenging, but just purely because of who wrote it, I took it seriously.
Yeah, I had the same thought. Like, the story was written in a very good way, and it was like very believable. But then we were looking at sources, and it was like anonymous, or nobody really know how that info got to Wielerflits. But there was already a lot of information about team structure, etc. Like Patrick Lefevre would be some sort of chairman in a committee within the team, and Plugge would be DS or team manager, and Zeeman head of performance, head coach.
Yeah.
So that was already quite a lot of details known about the structure, and it was already like the move has done. We will have a Soudal-Visma or a Visma-Soudal in 2024 when I saw that article.
Yeah, that was kind of the surprising part where there is such intricate detail about a team structure, which in a negotiation, that's like afterthoughts, really. But somehow they're already in there. So that really made it concrete and like, okay, this is for soon then. But it did say that the deal would be signed soon. We've now 3 days further, we haven't heard any news, and kind of both parties are saying, well, there's nothing really going on. Or
since then, social media exploded. A lot of negative comments about it, not a lot of positives one. We have to be honest.
No.
And then today, the 27th of September. There were rumors that Jumbo-Visma and Specialized were seen in a hotel to negotiate a deal, maybe, because Jumbo-Visma is riding on Cervelo bikes and Soudal-Quickstep is riding on Specialized bikes. So that's a rumor. And the other rumor was that Patrick Lefevre was spotted at the Jumbo-Visma service course on Monday. But that seems to be false, according to the Mr. Patrick Lefevre himself, as he tweeted it in his own fashion, saying it's total crap. But the Jumbo-Visma and Specialized rumor, he didn't say anything about that, and it was in the same tweet he quoted, so that might be a hint.
I mean, he also might not be at that meeting. First of all, like the rumors are from a tweet that said, guys from Jumbo-Visma and Specialized, if you're having a meeting, maybe don't wear big logos on your shirts. Like there were no pictures. There was that was the origin of that rumor. Is that the most believable rumor? I don't know. That could just that could just be someone having fun on the internet. Could be a troll. Like there's how do you know that that person was there and the people having those meetings actually were there as well? But it is just goes onto the rumor mill.
Like some people were actually looking for a reason why they would the team would come together, and one of the reasons was they would close the gap. They want to close the gap financially on the market leaders, Ineos, UAE, actually the teams who are sponsored by the Arabic countries, the oil states. We have Jaco Alula as well, who's pushing a lot more money into the team for 2024. Mm-hmm. We have a Movistar where some oil state is getting into as well, as they want to take over the full telephone company Movistar in a couple of years. So that's the reason why they would merge, and they want to fight against the Saudi money that reaches pro cycling. What do you think of that?
I mean, I fully understand that idea. With Jumbo also leaving as a sponsor, they said at the end of next year, but if possible, they would want to leave sooner. Jumbo-Visma does need to find a new title sponsor. I find it really difficult to believe that they haven't been able to do that after winning 3 Grand Tours in a season. Like they've dominated this year, but somehow they're not able to find a title sponsor in Europe, or outside of it for that matter. But I do think that they want to keep their European identity. It's it's also part of the argumentation in the Wielerflits article about why the merger would happen. It would become a Benelux team, although I don't know where the Lux comes from in that. It's kind of like the tour of the Benelux, which never went through Luxembourg. Different topic. But yeah, considering the budgets, Jumbo's always said that they have a lower budget than those teams. And every time there's numbers produced, it does seem that way, but they're able to compete with and kind of slaughter those teams anyway.
I don't believe that part of the story is single bit. You have a Wout van Aert in the team, a Primoz Roglic, a Jonas Vingegaard, a Sepp Kuss, who is a luxury domestique, will earn quite a bit of money as well. Those guys aren't riding in a team for 20 euros a week. Those guys are earning a lot of money in the pro cycling world. In comparison to the football world, it's nothing. Don't understand me wrong. But looking at pro cycling, it's impossible that those guys don't earn a lot of money. They brought in Dylan van Baarle as well in 2023. You have to know he won Paris-Roubaix in 2022. So get someone like van Baarle in the team after he won Paris-Roubaix that same year. That's going to be quite expensive as well. So they always say the gap between us and Ineos UAE is very big, but I have my doubts about that, to be honest.
I think it's smaller than is reported, but I do still think there is a gap. I think there's a lot of riders that just want to ride for Jumbo and might just take a little bit less compared to a deal with UAE or Ineos. But for example, if you're a rider for Jumbo, I don't think you have to do stuff like sponsorship deals, like you have to show up in advertisement. Every other team does that, or well, at least all of the bigger commercial teams that are not state sponsored have to do certain sponsorship deals. But I don't think I've seen a Jumbo rider in an ad for anything.
Me neither. I remember Remco Evenepoel in the Pizza Hut ad.
But that's his personal sponsor.
Yeah, that's his personal sponsor. So no. And Red Bull is the personal sponsor of Wout as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, a good topic you're talking about. A good point. A merger, like everything we know right now, is it a real merger or is it a takeover?
Oh, it's definitely a takeover. I think Jumbo just wants a couple of the riders and the sponsor. Really, they want Soudal to be there because I think during the tour, the Soudal executives said in an interview that they didn't care if Remco was there or not in their team. They just wanted to have a big presence in the sport. So that kind of signaled to Plugge and Zeeman, like, okay, these guys don't really care if Remco is there or not. We can just try and poach them. But yeah, I think for Plugge and Zeeman, so Jumbo side, it's really about the money. In terms of the riders, if they can get Remco, great. Does Remco want to go with them? I doubt it. But who else from Quickstep would Jumbo really, really like to have? I have my doubts.
Yeah.
Like they already have such a strong team. Like which riders from the Soudal-Quickstep Classics team would you say, well, those guys could really help Wout van Aert to win a classic?
I looked at the roster from Soudal-Quickstep yesterday, and I looked at the squad. Maybe an Asgreen, he can be a vital guy within the Jumbo-Visma squad, but who you take out?
You already have someone like Van Baarle, same profile.
That's true, but it's quite weird because I investigated a little bit, and I looked at the riders' agents yesterday from who is under contract under which agent, and there was an agent, a group of
an agency,
that had 4 or 5 Soudal-Quickstep riders in their wallet, and all those guys were already taken out of the Soudal-Quickstep team. So I don't know if it's a coincidence or not. It can be a coincidence, of course, but it's quite weird that every Soudal-Quickstep rider that they had was out of that team before the rumor came out.
So I think this was a SEG Racing.
Yeah.
It's also the agency that is representing the most athletes out of them all. It's the biggest one. So if I think any agency would sort of catch up on rumors, it might have been those guys. So it's definitely an interesting thing that they took all their riders out. But considering who the riders were, like you have a Stan van Tricht, who I do think deserves to be somewhere else than Quickstep, so deserves to have a little bit of his own chances. And I think they had Dave Nance who quit, who retired, and Jakobsen as well in there, who obviously was going to leave because with Remco going to the Tour next year, Jakobsen needs to find another place.
Yeah, we're looking into the riders of Soudal now. We have an Alaphilippe. Probably a lot of French teams are willing to take him in.
And pay him pretty well.
And then we have actually the Evenepoel squad, the Evenepoel train with Vervaker, with Knox, all those guys. And I read an article that a lot of teams, pro cycling teams, are keeping some spots open on their roster for next season because they know something might be up.
Well, definitely not Little Trek.
Yeah, not Little Track because they had a lot of money to
Yeah.
buy without them. But there are quite a lot of squads who have a couple of spots left. Ineos
Yeah.
has quite a bit. Movistar only has 7 or 8 confirmed at this point. So a lot of things will change, I think, in the next weeks.
Yeah. What confuses me the most about that is that both Jumbo-Visma and Soudal-Quick have signed riders for 2024, since apparently they started having these talks in July. Only, well, a few weeks ago, we had transfer announcements of mainly from dev teams to the main team, because both those teams, of course, have very established and well-functioning devo teams. So like, why sign more riders when you know you have to downsize and merge? That is the most confusing to me. Like, that sort of signals to me that it's not happening for 2024. Because like both of those teams bloated their team size and now they have to downsize. Why would you do that unless you're malicious?
Yeah, it's like Landa was contracted by Soudal-Quick. He signed for 2 years, so for 2024 and 2025. They signed Lamperty from Trinity Racing as well. The guy is very young, very talented, and he signed for 2 years as well. So they are both 2-year contracts. And besides that, they brought in some Devo guys, like you said, Jordi Wadlop, William Leclerc, Helders van Heluwe, and Aiko Bastiaans, the Devo guy from Alpes in de Koning. That's still the weirdest transfer so far this season.
Yeah.
But they brought in Landa to strengthen the mountain train for Remco to go to the Tour in 2024 with Soudal-Quick.
Yeah.
Then Jumbo-Visma brought in a lot of Devo guys as well, with Stone Mittet, Perstrand Hagenes, and Lou van Bellen. But they signed Ben Tullet, one of the biggest British talents, still very young, and Matteo Jurgensen. The guy was a leader in Movistar and decided to go to Jumbo-Visma because the structure around it was better, nutrition, training camps, etc. So they traded a lot with their own Devo team, but they both signed quite some big names with Jurgensen on the one side and Landa on the other side. So that creates that they have 27 riders Jumbo-Visma for 2024 and Soudal-Quick 23 for 2024. Combined, that's 50 riders and only 30 are allowed in a team. So that's possibly 20 riders who were up for grabs for other teams.
Yeah, this is where I don't see this as possible, because to absolve, so basically first we have to look at which UCI World Tour license gets used, because they are then the paying agent, and the teams that stops existing stops becoming the paying agent, and the riders of that team, their contracts are basically void and they can look elsewhere, or they can join the new team. What makes most sense is to dissolve Soudal-Quick there, but that means only 3 riders would be allowed to carry over, and the other 20 would be gone. So you've signed, I think they've signed 7 riders this transfer season already, Soudal-Quick. So if only 3 out of the 23 can get 8. So yeah, all of those guys are probably, well, screwed if this happens. So basically, a lot of people are screwed if this happens for 2024. But that's why I really hope that it doesn't happen for 2024. If it happens for 2025, it's still going to be a bloodbath for a lot of staff as well, because you have 2 complete staff groups. You don't need that, because you're not going up in your rider count. So like, if it's for 2024, which 4 riders of Soudal-Quick do you want to take? You want Remco, but is he gonna?
Remco isn't going. I don't believe that a single second, and it might be a little bit controversial, but Evenepoel and Vinegar in a team is impossible with the ambitions the both riders have. They both want to go to the Tour and they both want to win the Tour. Even if Vinegar have won it 5 times, he'll want to get it a 6th time. I don't see that happen.
Yeah, but Jumbo-Visma has gone to the Tour before with multiple leaders. They've done it with Vinko and Roglic, and at that time won it. Of course, Roglic had to sort of crash out, which he tends to do.
But it's so weird because we're talking now about Vinegar and Evenepoel as main leaders. Then you have a floating Roglic around that. But then you have Stona Mittet, who's 21 years old. He won the Giro Next Gen this year. He's named as one of the big young talents coming on pro level. Then we have the young guys are coming as well, and Stona Mittet is 3 years younger than Remco. So that creates a lot of I don't see it happen, sorry. And he's brought into the team for 3 years. So it's so weird, to be honest. It's so weird to talk about. And we know nothing actually about what's gonna happen. And that's the biggest issue about this. We have a lot of questions. What about the Soudal staff, the Soudal riders? The Jumbo will have questions as well. I have no doubt about that.
Yeah, I think if the goal is to bring Remco, then you need to also bring someone like Klaas Lodewijk or Bramati, because they are basically always his DS. I think Klaas Lodewijk especially. If you don't bring him, I don't think Remco comes. And then of course you have his soigneurs and
that's the promise Ineos made a couple of weeks ago. Remco can take his full staff with him to Ineos. So his, for example, Vervaeke, other guys who are trusty of Evenepoel. Then you have a Lodewijk, Bramati, his soigneurs. So if it happens, I don't see Remco right for the team.
No, and then there's of course Specialized, which apparently there was a meeting with today. I think that is very important for Remco. He's always said that he loves riding on Specialized. So if there was a meeting earlier today between Jumbo and Specialized, I do think that signifies that getting Remco into the team would be important. But even if we just look at bigger picture stuff, I don't think this would be good for the sport at all. I think we're already looking at a Jumbo-Visma that has been dominant all season in the Grand Tours. In the classics, they have some catching up to do, but I don't think you can do that with a stronger team, to be honest. I think you just have talents like Mathieu van der Poel and Tadej Pogacar, who on one-day races nearly impossible to beat. So I don't think you can use a stronger team there.
Go ahead. Sorry.
In a 3-week race, you can use a stronger team because day after day you can just fatigue your opponents and add kilojoules, and that's what they did this year to the Pogacar at the Tour. So that there it works, but I don't see how with a stronger team they're going to win more races.
If it happens, how does it change the cycling landscape?
Well, a lot. You have a World Tour license up for grabs, which instantly one of the current Pro Tour teams will want to grab and buy. but just looking at the Grand Tours, you're gonna have a team that is even more dominant. Does that result in extra investment from the Saudi countries to go up against that even more and sort of create an arms race? I could see that happening where they actually double down on those investments. And then you're going to have 3 or 4 super teams, and all the other teams are really going to struggle to even get stage wins.
Yeah, I'm not very happy if it happens. I think cycling will change and will go into a different direction if the merger happens as we expect it's gonna be at some point. Those state-sponsored countries will pump a lot more money into cycling, like it's doing with football right now. We see all those top talent those superstars going to the Saudi league. With all due respect, but the performance level of that league is nowhere in comparison to the European leagues like England, like Spain. So I don't know what happened there, but it's like, I'm talking about the oil states right now. They decided since last year they want to put a lot of money in sports in general.
It's part of a campaign by I forgot the name of the Saudi king, but yeah, it's part of a sports washing campaign that he's said that he will continue to do because, well, it's good for his country, and yeah, I don't think it's good for the sport. And when you're talking about football and getting all the talents there, it will lift the level of that league over time. But at the same time, then they need to actually build up sustainable development centers so they can actually train up their own youth. I don't think that's happening, and I don't think that's happening with cycling teams as well. I don't believe that UAE is currently setting up a development team specialized for talents from the UAE, which I kind of think if you're a state sponsor, you should do. Like in Belgium, we have Flanders Balwaze, who Topsport Vlaanderen is like sponsoring that team to bring Flemish talents to the top of the sport. If you're a state sponsored team, I feel like it's kind of your duty to do that.
What do you prefer? There were talks between Jumbo-Visma and Neom City as well, if I recall correctly, somewhere around the Tour de France. That's. Do you prefer them to jump ship towards that path as well, or do you like more the idea of getting Soudal into Visma, Jumbo-Visma, and sell it as a Benelux team?
Oh, that's a very difficult question because neither is a good scenario.
It has to be one of the two. At this point, we know it's.
Then I personally would prefer that they would go with something like Neom, because then at least like the Quickstep identity remains saved. Like Quickstep is a team with such a history in sport. That if they merge and Quickstep would fall away as a title sponsor, that would be. I would never have seen that before in sport. I've been watching cycling for 20 years. So was a young boy. So yeah, they've just always been there. And to see them absolved into what used to be Rabobank, that's just wild to think about.
Yeah, I saw an article from Johan Brunel as well, talking about team mergers. It happened back then as well with Team Leopard, if I recall correctly, and Radio Shack, and that didn't turn out well, according to Brunel. He said like the brothers Schleck and Cancellara just said what they wanted, and it was fixed. So he always said this isn't good for the sport, but it's it's not. It's good. It isn't good for the sport in general that it should happen. That's his
Yeah,
opinion
I mean,
about this.
with any business merger, you have to merge cultures, and I think the team cultures of Jumbo-Visma and Quickstep basically couldn't be further apart. Yes, they're both professional teams, but they're professional in very different ways. They go about communication very differently. They go about just how they talk about their riders very differently. You have a Patrick Lefevre who is clearly not afraid to speak his mind about his riders if they're not performing. Uh, I don't think someone like Plugge would ever say such a thing. How would they ever get along inside of a board meeting room? I don't know. And then you have the performance staff, which clearly also differs quite a bit in their approach. How do those cultures meet? Like doing that would, I think some business consultants would love that because they would get quite a big paycheck if they need to try and solve that. I think it's impossible.
Yes, a lot has been talked about already. I think we said everything we knew at this point in time. We might end of this episode with the joke of the week, brought to you by Jurien Thomas. Do you recall what it was?
It was something about Evenepoel hating Jumbo, Jumbo hating Evenepoel, and that like Roglic doesn't like.
Yeah, he said you should know what Roglic says about Remco.
Yeah, so
And then that completely blew up on social media. Like, oh yeah, G is talking the truth. It's this is why we love him. And then I saw a tweet from the man himself, laughing with Rose saying uh, that they have to be more clear when they tell a joke. But was it a joke? Fully 100% a joke? I don't know. It. I listened to that part in the interview and what's occurring in their podcast, and it came out of him so smoothly without thinking, without even laughing a second. It was just like, doop. That's it.
yeah, they say that every good joke has a kernel of truth in it. Yeah, I think hear what Roglic has to say about Remco. I think that is a joke because I think Roglic is a very restrained person in what he says. Uh, Remco not liking Jumbo, like I just think that if you're in a competitive environment, you're not meant to like your competitors. So obviously he's not gonna love them right now. Doesn't mean that he can never be in that team. But you're not meant to like your competitors.
Yeah, I loved the last bit about it. He said, I don't want to start rumors, but I'm just saying. That's like, all right. But
Yeah.
yeah, did you forget anything today? Maybe a little bit about the Devo team, women's team.
Yeah.
How will that turn out? Because there was a press release an hour ago from Jumbo-Visma, 2 hours ago, by the way, saying that the roster for 2024 is ready.
Yeah.
Jos van Emden will be coach in the women's team from Jumbo-Visma, and they are ready for 2024.
Yeah, that's where it gets a little bit complicated because if Jumbo falls away as a sponsor for that team as well, they obviously need to find a new sponsor. I think if the men's teams merge, doesn't necessarily mean that the women's team need to merge as well, because clearly their structure is quite separated. They work on different licenses as well, and especially at the Soudal-Quick side, I think Agri Insurance Soudal, they have very different structures, even some different sponsors. So I think those can keep existing as they are, but like if those were to merge as well, it's a cycling bloodbath that I don't think there's so many careers that would be lost if that happens, and it would be such a shame. With the Devo teams, like just keep them both. Like there is no reason to cut the amount of teams that are developing riders. It would make no sense.
Yep, I have to agree with that one. I don't want to add anything on that. I think we can conclude there were a lot of questions. We know almost nothing about what's going on behind doors. This info leaked and it shouldn't have been leaked. It isn't really beneficial for the negotiations, in my opinion. And it's a lot of uncertainty for a lot of people involved. Let's hope we get some more information about this in the next couple of weeks and that everybody can keep their work as they are doing right now in 2023 and they can keep on doing it in 2024. And if it happens in 2025, that they are alerted soon enough so they can start looking for a job elsewhere.
Yeah, totally agree.
And now it's up to you to get the outro done.
All right. Well, that's a wrap for today's Domestique Cycling Podcast. A big thank you to our audience for tuning in. If you enjoyed the episode, consider supporting us on Ko-Fi or X. And if you're on YouTube, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We appreciate your support and look forward to seeing you next time. Bye-bye.
See you later.
I've got the spores, the sickness. There's the twins in my brain.